series of short videos created by Cognos Educational Psychology Service, which runs alongside a more comprehensive guidance document we have created on the topic of emotionally based school avoidance, which we know has become an issue of greater prevalence and concern among Sutton schools. This video is going to be looking at the warning signs of EBSA. We know that young people can feel worried, anxious, or unmotivated about school for lots of different reasons. For some, there'll be situations in school that are making them worry, whereas for others, something outside of school may trigger them to feel more worried and motivate them to stay at home. On the screen here, there are many triggers to be aware of which may be exacerbating the child's anxiety. As an example, finding the work difficult or having problems concentrating, feeling pressure to get good exams, difficulty in their relationships with friends and friendship groups, not feeling accepted or they fit in or getting on with teachers. Perhaps they're experiencing or witnessing bullying and overall feeling unsupported. They may have additional educational needs that are not being recognised, or feeling average or less than average in class or of high achieving peers. They may be overwhelmed by the environment or experiencing difficulty or challenges at home, perhaps a parental separation or a challenge with their relationships. So as a school, it's really important to be able to monitor and be aware of potential triggers that may be exacerbating how a young person feels. In particular, times of transition may cause an increase in anxiety. Although change is a normal part of life, transitions are at times when feelings of uncertainty are often experienced because it involves moving from a state of known to being faced with a lot of unknowns. And therefore, even positive transitions, changes that we can look forward to, can still feel really overwhelming. And for some people, transitions and changes are more difficult because the feelings of uncertainty are heightened for them, and their feelings of anxiety can therefore lead to a cycle of avoidance. This is where we avoid the situation to give us an instant relief of that anxiety, but over time, all that does is then exacerbate those intense feelings we experienced initially. On the screen here, you can see some of the examples of how transition can really impact on how a young person feels. A perceived loss of control, a lack of predictability, feelings of uncertainty, the ending of some relationships and attachments they've experienced previously. They may not have their own capacity to self-regulate and to manage these intense feelings, or perhaps don't have the self-confidence in themselves to have the skills and attributes to manage this transition. They may also feel uncertain about their future. And therefore, it's helpful to think about particular transitions within your school, which may be causing an increased anxiety for that young person. As a school, we need to be looking out for the potential warning signs in young people that may indicate that they are experiencing heightened anxiety about school and perhaps maybe avoiding school as a consequence of this. So if you're noticing regular absence from school for minor illnesses, perhaps young children who are reluctant to leave their parents at the school gate each morning, perhaps their reluctance to attend school trips or particular activities that might be going on in school. Maybe you're noticing patterns of absences. There are certain days of the week or certain lessons where they may be having increased difficulty with coming in the morning. Typically, you might find a Monday morning more difficult, especially after perhaps a half term or a summer holiday. Perhaps young people who are expressing a desire to come to school but are telling you they feel unable to do so. Or perhaps there's things going on at home and they have anxiety about family members, meaning they don't want to leave them to be in school. Perhaps you're noticing challenging behaviour in relation to a specific situation in school. There are times when their behaviour is more heightened compared to others. Or perhaps you're noticing social isolation or avoidance of peers. If you can think of some young people in your school where some of these factors may be true, it might be worth trying to explore that in a little bit more detail to think about how we may better support them to experience success and enjoy school to a greater extent. It may be the case that a young person has some of the warning signs discussed on the last page, but are able to still manage and cope with school, especially with little more pastoral support or guidance for them. And that's okay, and that may be the case. However, it's really important to notice the warning signs early so that intervention can be put in place before they're no longer attending school. So small tweaks early on are going to have a higher success rate than waiting until the situation has become much more entrenched. So it's worth thinking about when you start to notice those warning signs. What are you going to do as a school to make sure that intervention can take place at a very quick pace? So who might be the staff member in school that's going to be monitoring these warning signs and putting action in place? And here are some questions on the screen which may be able to help in guiding your thinking. So how do you currently monitor pupils who are at risk of EBSA? Who has the responsibility for recognising and monitoring EBSA? What policies does your school currently have? What currently is the role of class teachers, or perhaps the SEND team, or perhaps your attendance team? And how does EBSA fit in within your SEN and pastoral support processes? If you are currently unsure about some of the answers to these questions, then try and have a think or brainstorm as a school and think about what policies and practices you can put in place now to try and act as a preventative measure to support young people who may be experiencing EBSA. Here is an overview of all the videos in this series on EBSA. As you can see, this is the second video indicating warning signs of EBSA. And please watch our other videos if you're interested in finding out more about how you can support EBSA students in your school. Thank you.